Fear of anti-Wells. Senator Lyons.
Mr Acting Deputy President, isn't it interesting? Here we have the government, as usual, completely unable to defend the dirty deal they did yesterday. No mention of the brand new dirty deal on super. No mention of taking billions of dollars out of retirement incomes. But that's what we expect from the government. They're a government of no fact. They're all fiction. And as long as they're hurting someone else other than their rich mining mates and those in the big end of town, they're pretty happy. And no matter how the Abbott government tries to dress it up, there's no getting away from the fact that they've stolen superannuation entitlements from 8.5 million Australian workers. They've reduced 8.5 Australian workers' retirement incomes by their 7-year freeze on superannuation contributions. And despite the many questions we asked them today in question time, they were not able to defend their actions and they were not able to truthfully explain what they had actually done. But Australian workers will not be fooled. And they've done this dirty deal in a partnership with the Palmer United Party. And they've done this on the back of the Prime Minister's clear promise on the 6th of April 2013, which is, I'm going to quote from because it's worth reminding the chamber. And the Prime Minister said, "Our clear, categoric commitment to the Australian people is that we are not going to make unexpected adverse changes to superannuation." Let's be very clear what the Abbott government, assisted in its dirty deal by the Palmer United Party, did yesterday was betray 8.5 million Australian workers by freezing increases to their super. That is both unexpected and adverse. And abolishing the low-income superannuation contribution is an adverse outcome. And no matter how they try and dress it up, and no matter how they say they support super, they don't. Mr Abbott is on the record as calling super a quote-unquote con job. So what does the freeze mean for 8.5 Australian workers? Well, it means a loss, when you look at the compounding effect, of $100,000 over a lifetime. And on ABC radio, we see another blunder by a senior minister. Mr Pyne said this morning he claimed the 2.5% difference, that's the difference between the frozen super contribution of 9.5% and the 12%, would somehow end up in the pockets of workers, that they'd be somehow better off. Well, if that's the government's view, they need to guarantee 8.5 Australian workers that, in addition to their next wage increase, they'll receive an extra 2.5%, which compensates them for their stolen super. And they'll receive that from every boss in the country. And just like the so-called carbon tax on our electricity bills, the pay packets of 8.5 million workers should clearly show, according to the logic of Mr Pyne, this extra 2.5% as the stolen super levy. Is the government going to guarantee that? No, of course they're not, because they know that is not the truth. And I can say, as an experienced and proud union official, when I sat down with workers to negotiate, no employer I ever dealt with said, now there's this much for super and there's this much for your wage increase. That is a complete furphy. And if the government is going to stick to that line, it is time you pass legislation that says the 2.5% additional levy that you lost on your super will be in your pay packet. And that is the only way Australian workers can be guaranteed. But you won't do that because you've done a dirty deal, you're embarrassed, and you don't really care about 8.5 million Australian workers who will be worse off under the deal that you did yesterday, the dirty deal you did, and it will be on your conscience when you look those workers in the face and try and pretend that somehow they're better off. Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President.